Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on the show today. And here we are. The start of the college football playoff is tonight.
Today's the day, baby.
I was listening to somebody earlier today. Now, I know part of it was sarcasm.
Of course.
Part of it was sarcasm, so I do get that. About Indiana little brother.
Interesting.
And they're talking about Rudy and about the 7 Heisman Trophy winners. And he's running down the Heisman Trophy winners. And again, some of this is sarcasm. He says, 7 Heisman Trophy winners. Tim Brown. You know what I did? I'm listening. I said, Tim Brown. I said, not playing. He says, John Hewitt. I said, not playing. Right? He says, Angelo Bertelli. I said, dead. He's like, Elmer Layden. I said, dead. They aren't playing in the game.
No.
It doesn't matter.
No, they are not.
Okay? When Penn State went to Notre Dame in 1982, there had been a reputation where Notre Dame does not lose to teams who play at South Bend the first time they go there. So Joe tells him, he says, I got up the night before, and he tells them, he says, I'm telling you right now, Paul Hornung, he says, Newt Rockne and the Four Horsemen are not climbing out of the ground and playing in tomorrow's game. He says, you're playing this Notre Dame team.
Yeah. You're playing a slightly different Notre Dame team than people are used to seeing at this time of year.
Alan Pinkett and those guys, good players, by the way.
Yeah,
Penn State won the game 24-19. All right,
Yeah.
Big win. So you play against who you're in front of. I mean,
Yes.
Kurt Signetti, who is probably heard over and over again all season about Indiana's football reputation. And all season long, he's been telling everybody that would listen, he says, hey, check my resume. Now, it seems a little cocky to say that, but I don't blame him for saying that.
Google me.
And the reason, and I don't blame him for saying that because he's trying to give his team a persona of like, so what? This is this year's Indiana team. We don't, okay. Right?
We're winning.
Right? We win games. That's all they have to do. I mean, it's always about matchups, Kyle. It's not about all the ancillary garbage that we spend days and days each week talking about. Right? And I don't mean on this because we get into nuts and bolts and meat and potatoes and matchups and things like that because I just don't believe in that stuff. I just think, look at the tradition of Notre Dame. Well, guess what? Rockne's not coaching. Right? Marcus Freeman's coaching. And guess what? He's a really good coach, and he's got an excellent defense. He's got a quarterback that got off to a slow start, is playing a little bit better right now. They don't have any game-breaking receivers. Neither does Indiana. They don't have any game-breaking receivers. Indiana's had offensive line breakdowns their last 2 games, which has forced Rourke to do some things faster than he wants to do. That's what you talk about. That's the game. It is not the fact that Indiana has very limited football tradition. Who gives a damn? I don't care what happened in 1967. What about tonight? I mean, we spend too much time on the ancillary stuff, right? Oh, I mean, they're going down to Texas. They're going to play. That's fine. They're not coming out of the stands with weapons. Okay? Now, we've talked about other things important this week, like crowd noise, because they have not faced it this year.
Yeah.
Okay?
In SMU. They have not.
They have not faced it this year, okay, which is difficult for the 2 tackles, right? They have to use hand signals, which they're not normally used to doing. I mean, when the second largest road crowd you face is 36,000, right? How loud are the people of Virginia? My goodness, come on.
You are tripling that crowd.
I've done games in Virginia, okay?
Yeah.
And that's a factor. How cold it is a factor because it's a factor in part in the kicking game, and I think it also is a factor in decision-making with the kicking game. Do I have the wind at my back? Okay? What was the warm-up like? how far out did Rodgers hit his field goals? How far out did Barker hit his field goals in these conditions? Warm-up plays a role in that. That's where weather comes into play. Okay, weather does come into play. The fact that they've fumbled the ball 23 times this season, now they lost 12, but they've had 23 fumbles, which is you're looking around like, what kind of number is that? But in cold weather, it does become a factor that could be a factor in the game. That's what you talk about. I don't care about the Pony Express. James and Dickerson are not playing in the game. For example, it was a well-meaning question. This was a well-meaning question at the quarterback level.
Of course.
It was well-meaning. There's nothing wrong with it. Did you talk to them about we are? Because of Wally Triplett, it was the SMU game. We already went through all that with the Cotton Bowl. Okay? We went through all of that. James said, no, I really haven't addressed it with him. Because, again, it's not going to be something that, they did do a video this week where Terry Smith narrated it, and it was about We Are. Now, the We Are thing is, the We Are you heard today is not related to that.
Mm-hmm.
As I explained on the Today Show last year.
Yeah.
Right? So let me at least... So James is like, well, we didn't really address it with the team. Because, again, it's not really. But Terry did do a video about it, and that was put out this week.
Something was put out about it.
Right.
James didn't have to address it with the team.
Didn't have to address it with the team. Because SMU was the opponent that day, Doak Walker, and Wally scored a touchdown. It ended up 13-13. Walker and Triplett eventually became teammates with the Detroit Lions. And Wally was a marvelous guy. My goodness, I love talking to him. I had the privilege of meeting and spending time with him. It was, no question, a privilege in my life. And his wife was a gem. But the origin of We Are that we have today, so I won't waste too much time on this with everybody because I don't want to waste anybody's time. But, okay, just so everybody knows. Yes, the story goes that, hey, we don't need to take a vote. After there was a Miami incident earlier. Well, we'll play you, but the two African-American players can't play. Right? Denny Hogard and Wally Triplett. And so Penn State said, we're not playing. Right? So when they get to this, they wouldn't let them stay at the hotel in Dallas, so they stayed at a military base 13 miles outside of Dallas. And Steve Suey, when they said, well, what about the possibility, because they never had a black player play in the Cotton Bowl before. I said, they said to Steve Suey, he said, well, what do you think about it? He says, there'll be no vote. We are Penn State, so we're not going to do it. Right? Now, this is where fact and mythology come into play. Right? Sports is loaded with mythology. Everyone thinks that's a carryover to what we have today. It's not true. Okay? 1975. Penn State's cheerleaders. Penn State plays at Ohio State. And, of course, in Ohio State, it's OHIO. Unfortunately for them, it's only 4 letters. Imagine me in California. They'd be doing at the end of the first quarter, they'd be done. Yeah, right. Shorter state name, easier to get it done fast. Right. So the Penn State cheerleaders were like, hey, we should do something. We need to do something. And later in the year, and they couldn't really come up with anything, because look, the season started, and they're like, we need to do something. Well, at the end of the year, I guess a couple of them were watching the USC-UCLA game. And at USC, they chant, we are SC. But they don't, we are SC. They don't do, we are SC. They don't do it that way.
It's not a call.
We are SC. So the Penn State cheerleaders were watching the USC-UCLA game from the Coliseum. It was on TV. And he said, we could do that. We are Penn State. I'm like, okay. So the Stanford game in 1976, they go down to what's now the north side. And they try to lead the crowd, and we are Penn State. And it's like, because look, back in the 70s, Penn State was winning all the time, winning all the time, winning all the time, winning all the time. And to be honest with you, the stadium was sleepy.
Yeah.
It was sleepy. So that's why the cheerleaders wanted to do something. You know, it was like their initiative was to do something about it. And their linkage of We Are Penn State does not have anything to do with, it's nice linkage.
It's a coincidence.
It's great linkage. There's no question, but that's not the origin of it. Right? And so they started, and everybody's like, oh, it's, at this point in 76, the track is still in the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are a little further removed from the field. The one end has bleachers in it. The scoreboard's even further back than that. I mean, that was my freshman year here at Penn State. And everybody's like, oh, what are you doing? And it took years for it to catch on in the stadium. I mean, years. It wasn't like, hey, at the end of the 76 season, hey, we had a, no. It's just kind of like they kept doing it. And they kept doing it. Finally, after a few years, finally caught on in the stadium. Right? You know, and they built the stadium up. They got it up to 78,000 with the addition. They closed in the south end zone and more. And they moved the cheerleaders to the south end because, you know, the students were like in the east section over toward that area. And it finally caught on. But that's the reality of the story. Okay?
And it just kind of lined up perfectly, so people thought, oh, well, this is a great way, as you said,
the
to
linkage
link
is great.
It's coincidental.
Right. And again, it was a well-meaning question.
Yeah.
But again, when they went down to the Cotton Bowl, they brought it all up because they wanted the players to know.
Exactly.
Which is great.
Yes.
Because the game was in Arlington, even though it wasn't in the original Cotton Bowl, it was still.
Yeah. But this game is in Happy Valley.
Right.
This game is going on here.
It's a playoff, and it's this team, and it's their moment. Everything is this team, this moment. He's told each unit, you got 65 plays. Defense, you got 65 plays. Offense, you got 65 plays. Special teams, you got anywhere between 10 to 20 plays. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing to hold back here.
No.
Okay? Nothing.
Yeah.
All right? You go out, everything. If you need to empty out the playbook to do it, you do it. You're not saving anything because guess what? This is the NCAA basketball tournament. Survive and advance.
Yeah.
This is a case where in the NCAA basketball tournament, and this is not the case with this, every at-large team in the NCAA basketball tournament has one thing in common. Every one of them is coming off a loss because only the conference champions get automatic bids. Everybody else lost, and that's why you're in the at-large pool. Here, Notre Dame's coming off a win. Indiana's coming off a win. Tennessee's coming off a win, right? But then like, Penn State, SMU, and so forth.
And Texas,
are all coming off defeats. Okay, so what you find is this, and at least what I've found. Here's an opening round, and what's going to make the next round interesting for everybody is that everybody that wins this week has momentum.
Yeah,
because now they're all coming off a win. Oh.
And they have 10 days to get ready. And hypothetically, these teams, the Boise States and the Oregons, they cannot. My assumption is they're not going to prepare for both teams they could face. They're going to wait
they have plenty
and
of
then
time.
prepare.
Oh, no. What they've been doing, my guess would be, I have a segment of the staff getting ready for SMU. I've got a segment of the staff getting ready for Penn State.
And as soon as we're ready to go, we go.
We go with the one that ends up winning. Now, I asked James about when did you zero in on SMU. He says, Steve, because of the way
the bracket shook out.
The bracket shook out. We literally did not know who the opponent was until that moment. Now, the saving grace is you have 2 weeks. He says, so then all the resources went into SMU, all the way through. He said there was no way for us to do any pre-prep. He says, Oregon, you could do it because you knew, hey, just in case things don't fall into place for Ohio State, because everybody knew Oregon was already in the title game. So you could do some pre-work on them. You couldn't do any pre-work on this.
Well, if they had beaten Oregon, they would have to prepare for either then Tennessee or Ohio State, and then if they had ended up losing this game, they had either SMU or
so they couldn't,
Alabama.
They couldn't do anything with any of that. So that's why it's like, okay, boom, crash course. The players didn't practice Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday last week, a week ago. So they had time to put all that together so that when they went out to work on Thursday last week, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Plus the players needed time. Okay?
Yeah.
You played 7 consecutive weeks. A little bit of a break did not hurt the cause. Okay? And that's a big plus because, look, everybody at this time of the year is banged up.
And Penn State is now sitting here coming into this game. It is going on tomorrow. Noon is the game time. We're going to be on the air at 9 a.m. with our pregame show. You hop on the air at 10:30, I believe, with Mr. Jack Ham. And then, of course, the game goes down at noon here in Ivy Valley. It is expected to be about 20 degrees, 25 degrees, and windy. It does not look like it's going to be snowing tomorrow morning, but, of course, it is snowing right now still. So we'll see how much that's going to be around the area and around the stadium tomorrow morning. But getting into this team, getting into the SMU Penn State matchup itself, we've talked about it a little bit throughout the week. We've kind of led up to this moment. I want to start with...
Can I, before we do this...
Go for it.
With all due respect, I want to make sure, because I want to give the just due to what the women's volleyball team did last night. I will freely admit that the old man of the mountain got to the middle of the second set, fell asleep.
Yeah.
I've had a long, how many months here?
Yeah.
Okay, there's been no time off, which I embrace. That's not a complaint. But you, in the first set, I'm watching it, and they've got a 23-21. Hey, look, you get the next point. It's set point. You're like, hey, and Nebraska, to its credit, rang off 4 in a row. They won the first set. I'm like, oh, man. Now I'm watching the second set, and Penn State ties it at 8, and then John Cook had a challenge, and he won the challenge. Well, now instead of 8-8, it's now 9-7. They ran off the next couple of points. 3 points in a row. 12-7. Katie had to call a timeout. And now I'm starting to fall asleep because the second set's not looking good. And it's just like, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't.
And they ended up losing that set 18-25.
Then Merzick caught fire. I thought Merzick, the first few I saw her hit last night, you could tell the juices were really flowing. Yeah. Because she was long on the first, 3 attempts. That's adrenaline, okay? It's
overamped.
It's like when Jerry Vlare gets out of a chair.
Oh.
What?
Just she came out firing is the point. She came out energetic.
No, it's obvious. You're in a national semifinal. Here we go. Well, then she really channeled it, and and the sets were great. And I looked at you look at the highlights and go, wow, and they won 3 sets in a row, a reverse sweep last night.
25-23, 28-26, and then 15-13. They had to fight.
How? But you're fighting because here's what's great about this is they beat another great team. Nebraska's profile is not less because they lost. They're a great team. You expect 28-26 when you play Nebraska. You expect 15-13 in the fifth set because it's Nebraska. Just like Nebraska expected 28-26. Hopefully, they're thinking to themselves, we'll win at 28-26. We'll win the fifth 15-30 because they know they're facing a great team. So when you got 2 great teams colliding like that, because Louisville in the second set was dead in the water last night against Pitt and won it. Right, and then they ended up winning the match. So Penn State gets Louisville Sunday at 3. At 3.
I believe it's on ABC.
It's on ABC.
Well. So they broadcast. That'll be going on. It's in Louisville, so they will have a home crowd. Everyone is thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It's going to be a home crowd for the Cardinals.
Right. Yeah, and again, this is only because of bid.
Yeah. It's just because of how it shook out this way.
It's only because of the bid, the way it worked out. Because you have to bid for it. And because you do have to bid for it, they won the bid, so they're hosting.
Yeah.
And this is what a tremendous accomplishment. And now you got one more to win the whole thing, which would be the 8th Penn State National Championship. Katie, as a player, was part of the first one in 1999.
And now she can win one.
Right?
And
the staff has done a great job. She's done a great job. And this is... one of the really special moments. What they did last night was special and gutsy beyond words. And I just wanted, before we get back to football, I want to make sure they get recognized, because I don't in any way, shape, or form want their accomplishments to be put on a back burner.
This is incredible. It is their 14th NCAA championship match appearance and also their first one since 2017. Yeah. So it's been a little bit. They are back and they are firing. I mean, you mentioned it. They got momentum. They crushed it yesterday. I have a friend who works in Nebraska who was at this match covering the Nebraska team, and I got a text from him early this morning. When I woke up, I saw it. He said, "What did I just witness?" Yeah. And I was like, "What? Like, was it like I went to bed similar time. They were down 2-0 set wise. Like, okay, fell asleep, woke up, saw that text. Like, what happened? And then I saw all of the social media posts of them reverse sweeping, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
And Izzy Stark was great last night.
Just turned it on.
Hannah, I thought was great. I thought she was hammering the ball last night. Cameron Hannah. It was really very
this was a good game, a good match. Nebraska, by the way, 33-1 on the season, and they're 0-2 against Penn State on the season, so 33-3. Like, that shows you, like, this Nebraska team is incredible. They are, like, again, the last 4 teams left were all 1 seeds. They are the cream of the crop.
Those are the best 4 teams in the country.
They give us 2 incredible matches, and now we have 1 more coming up on Sunday, 3 o'clock. Very excited to watch this go down. And, of course, Penn State fans can be excited, hopefully, because hopefully it'll be after the Penn State men's basketball team wins and after the Penn State Nittany Lions win.
Yeah, they've got Drexel tomorrow at noon. Drexel is I've seen Drexel play in person because they were down in Daytona. And, in fact, I had a really great talk with Zach Spiker, because Zach was saying to me, he says, he listens to the games. Yeah. All right. When you're doing basketball, it's like what Jay Wright said. He says, Steve, going back and forth for practice, I'll listen to the games. All right. And I said, he says, yeah. He says, so I'll see you the 21st. Now, this is back down in Daytona. I said, if they're an at-large team, he goes, oh, yeah, I forgot about the playoff. All right. But I like Zach's team. Zach's a good coach. He just got a contract extension, which he earned. He has a bigger team. Right, they have a good 3-point shooting team, but they're a bigger team physically. On the wings and at center, they are a bigger team, like a Big Ten built team. And you can't go down there with the idea that everybody's bags are on the bus and you get to go home afterward. Yeah, this is always one of the dangerous games of the year. And I was telling Mike last night, after he was looking around, I said, what's wrong, Mike? He says, is that Jason Lord guy here? I said, no. I said, what about Jerry Valera? I said, no, we're good. I'm sorry, our staff has a reputation.
No, I know. Continue.
So I said, I said, Mike, in 2011, I said, we made the NCAA tournament. I said, and they lost to Maine in this game. At home. He says, where? I said, home by 10. He goes, oh, God. Everybody knows this is the most dangerous game. One of the more dangerous games of the year is this game.
It is like, people always try and figure out what the definition of a trap game is. This is a trap game where you come in a little too calm and you can get your socks knocked off.
It's not coming in too calm. It's coming in with the idea of going home after the game.
Christmas is after this. I get to go home, see my family. Your mind is not in Wells Fargo Center. Your mind is in wherever else.
Playing in Wells Fargo Center is a plus. Now it's going to be virtually empty.
It's going to be so similar.
Although I'm happy for Pat Flannery, because Charles Lee, the Hornets are playing the Sixers tonight. And Charles Lee, who played at Bucknell, is the head coach of the Hornets. So he's going to get a chance to go to the game tonight. The Flyers are playing there tomorrow night. So this game's kind of pigeonholed. So the game is at noon tomorrow. We're on at 11:30. It'll be Eric Olson working with DJ tomorrow.
I'm so sorry for Eric having to work with Dick Girardi. I mean,
it'll be the
criminal
highlight of his career.
Yeah. Will there be a blackjack tomorrow, Steve? Is my question for you.
I hope there is.
I believe
good news.
I had one blackjack this season. I got to hear the blackjack in one of the recent home games.
Coppin State, though, when they got the blackjack, we kind of slid through it. Dick said, not in a game like this. I said,
Well, I got the Buffalo blackjack.
Agreed.
I got the Yannick blackjack there.
Yeah,
that was enjoyable.
But that is, you're looking to be 10-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You need to keep your season going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't do anything to derail yourself.
If you can knock off Drexel, take this game, go home for Christmas,
you got
come
Penn.
back for Penn, and then all of a sudden...
And they're back to work on the 26th. Mm-hmm. I asked Mike last night about, when do you go back? And he goes, 26th, right away.
Back here after Christmas, then all of a sudden Penn, and then Big Ten season has arrived.
Northwestern on January 2nd, then the Palestra back down to Philly on the 5th.
Mm-hmm. So it's a big stretch coming up for the men's team. So hopefully for all the Penn State fans, Penn State men's team beats Drexel. Then all of a sudden you go into the action coming on up here in Happy Valley, same time. Then a Lions win, and then this volleyball match happens on Sunday. They win. There's also the journeyman duels for wrestling. Those are going on Sunday as well from like 2:40 onwards. So a lot of sports action, but the big one happening here in Happy Valley.
No doubt.
I want to start with for me, the piece I'm looking at in this game, for how Penn State can win this game, there are two names for me. That win this game. And James Franklin made a mistake earlier this year and gave me a great name I now want to use, which is Nick Allen. I think the duo of Nick Allen is what matters here. Of course, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, because this final past few weeks, that Oregon game, they were healthy, they were rocking, they were rolling. And if you are Penn State, there is no better way to control a game than running it down SMU's throat with Katron and Nick. And also in the pass game, you spread it out to them, get them in space, get them. Even a 6-7 yard pickup is huge on every down. It's incredible. So that's where my mind goes to first, as this is how Penn State can win. It's just those two on their own can win this game.
There's what they did in the Oregon game was spectacular, which means what the offensive line did in the game was spectacular. What has been great has been, number one, Drew Shelton. And people forget, Drew last year had off-season surgery. He did nothing in the spring. He didn't really get back to full go until June. So when he got off to a little bit of a slow start in September, Shelton, I was like, what have we talked about since September? We haven't talked about him at all. Because guess what? He's playing high-level football. Nolan Rucci, I already related the story about Nolan Rucci talking to his dad. I was talking to his mom and dad in Indianapolis, and I looked over at her. I said, "You okay?" She says, "Yeah." Is that Jerry Valeri guy? I said, "No, he's not. Didn't make the trip."
But Nolan has been incredible.
Our staff is scary.
They are scary. Okay. Nolan's been incredible so far. This entire O-line has been.
What's happened is, let me give you a couple things with Rucci. Number one, Rucci's one of those guys who's, let's face it. You're talking about 6'7", 6'8", okay? He's built to play offensive tackle. Okay. But except the one thing he couldn't really do before he got here was he had trouble keeping weight. He'd be at 295. He couldn't really, he couldn't keep it. Well, now they put him on the proper nutrition plan, right? And they put him on the strength and conditioning plan. Now he's about 317, and he's maintained it all year. And because with his frame, he's not heavy, right? It fits where he's supposed to be. The next part was they'd done a great job, Phil Troutwine and Frank Leonard, of working on technique and flexibility with him, of which he is so coachable. Okay, great. Okay. And you can see the results of that. So when Anthony Donko, who was having just an outstanding season at right tackle, has the unfortunate injury at Minnesota, Rucci, who had already played a lot this season anyway in the rotation, now steps in, and it's been great. Everybody has talked about the weather, so I said, well, let's have a little fun here. I said, left tackle, Pennsylvania. Left guard, Washington State. Center, Pennsylvania. Right guard, Delaware. I said, right tackle, Pennsylvania. I said, okay, a lot of road graders there from the good old Commonwealth.
They are used to it.
Right? And that's what you have. And that's now you see the fruits of Allen and Singleton. That's why having the few days off after the Big Ten championship game was good for the running backs.
Oh, yeah.
It was good for them.
Because they were already looking healthier, and this gives them now 2 weeks to rest, recuperate, get ready.
Because when we talk about running the ball, the numbers for SMU are impressive. But as I pointed out yesterday, if you do a deep dive into it, you kind of sit there and go, okay, they have faced 13 teams. Of the 13, only 3 of them are ranked in the top 60 in rushing yards. The other ones are 61 to 104. Like, okay, so is it a combination of them and the fact they're not playing great running teams, or is it a combination of you're playing teams where they're behind and got to throw the ball and don't run it? There's a lot of questions you have to ask as to how the numbers played out. Right? But that's part of it. They didn't play a lot of great running teams. So now Clemson. Well, Clemson, no. Clemson's primary back is hurt.
Yeah.
He played, but he had to play more in the game because the backup, Haynes, who's the speed guy, got hurt in the game.
Yeah.
So then the other guy had to step in, and he had to play as many plays as possible, but he probably played the game at 75%. So, again, there's a lot of stuff like that that goes into playing. You know, when you're starting to look at it, and Allen and Singleton are without question the 2 best running backs they've faced all year.
And they're facing them at the same time.
Right. Now, for Penn State, Smith is one of the best running backs they've played all year. But they've played quality backs.
Yeah.
Henderson, Judkins, right? James 2 weeks ago.
Oh, my God. Whittington's incredible as well.
Right. Whittington, the backup's really good. So, you know, they played other really good backs. Coleman, different kind.
Walker for
Walker from Wisconsin. Coleman from Washington. Both of them are different backs than Smith. They're different.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. So this will be, I'd say Smith is in, and you can put him in any order you want, one of the top 3 running backs Penn State's faced this year. Okay? Singleton and Allen are the best 2 running backs SMU's played this year.
Yeah.
Right? In combination with the offensive line. So that is... and the other part is mistakes. Let's talk about discipline for a moment.
Yes.
Okay? Based on yesterday's holiday party, very little here at the station.
Oh,
what?
I was not there. I was disciplined.
Oh, no. I mean, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, what's going on here? Right? I mean, I think Bernie went back for, Bernie, there's only so many meatballs.
Jeez.
I'm kidding.
So Penn discipline earlier this season for Penn State was a real issue.
And
it's cropped up here and there as well.
Discipline is more than penalties, okay? Okay, it's more than penalties. But again, this is part of the mystery of SMU, the baffling part of them. Right? Penn State, as you rightly point out, in the first month, you're like, what the heck? This is not how Penn State plays.
It was like false start, offsides, neutral zone, false start, offsides, just constantly, 8 a game.
Right. But then they settled down. The last 8 regular season games, and really settled down. They really played like all of James's other teams in the last 8 games. Now, you had the 4 15-yard penalties in the Big Ten championship game. Ironically, just so you know, Penn State was not penalized once in the second half.
Right? It was all early.
Right, it was all early. So, but when you look back on it, the 2 face mask penalties happen. Okay, you're in a pile. That happens. Okay. The other 2, the one on the kickoff, make 0 sense. What are you doing?
Was it Tyrese Mills, I believe?
Yes. What are you doing? It's a touchback. Okay, come on. Just run down, get to the goal line, get to the sideline. You're done. Move. Get out of here. Okay? And the other one was on offense. Okay. You got to keep your poise and your cool. This, again, is part of the mystery of SMU. They averaged better than 8 penalties a game.
Which is crazy.
Which is insane. They're averaging between 80 and 90 yards in penalties a game. Again, see what I'm talking about, the contradictions I'm seeing with this team, where you look at the tape, and the tape is like, look at the talent, look at how they play. wow. I mean, Jennings is athletic, makes plays, he runs, throws, he's accurate. A lot of things about him really good. Man, he's a terrific quarterback. Boy, you look at Smith, the running back, boom, he may be a converted wide receiver, but he'll run between the tackles. He's got some guts to him.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel's a really good wideout. You see all these things about them that impress you. That's why they're in this game, because they're really a good football team. And then you see things that are a total contradiction about how they got to the game.
They're playing without a left kneecap most of the game, basically.
Like, how do you get to be 11-2 and average 8 penalties, almost 9 penalties a game, and between 80 and 90 yards in penalties a game?
You're pretty much giving up a full field of football every single game.
How do you fumble the ball 23 times? Now, you lose 12, so you lose all of them. But how do you fumble the ball 23 times?
You lose the ball once a game minimum.
Like, how do you do that and keep winning? Now, that says to their talent, they're just so more talented than other people, they can do that. And I realize the Duke game is part of this, where they had the 6. But you sit back and go, there's a lot of, contradictions. So now let's get to discipline.
Yes.
Penn State needs to be a James Franklin football team tomorrow. Disciplined. In other words, SMU is a team that talks. Okay? They're trying to get you to get a little bit up. Like, okay. Just turn around and go, just shut the heck up. Man. Just go back to the huddle. Right? Let them talk all they want. Let them get out of character, or maybe be in character, and make mistakes. Okay? You need to win giveaway, takeaway tomorrow. You need to win it tomorrow. Okay? You need to win giveaway, takeaway. Right? Okay? For a couple reasons. In any game, you have to win it to begin with. The bigger the game, the more important it is. Okay? Number 2, that means that you've stayed away from the issue and they've stayed with the issue because it's been an issue for them.
Yeah.
Okay? So that means both teams are in character at that point. And you need to stay away from penalties. You don't need to get into it with these guys. Let them make the mistakes. Let them make the penalties. And then can the crowd be loud enough tomorrow? Can they be loud enough to get them to jump before or move before they want to? I mean, can you get them in? Ohio State was outstanding at that in the game. Praise and credit where credit's due. They never moved one time. Never.
Because they've played in those environments. And as we've discussed, a lot of that comes down to environment where these teams come in, they have not played against 100-some-odd-thousand people when it's snowing and it's a violently loud atmosphere and everything is a sea of white because of snow and the color people are wearing. It is a lot.
But again, you've got to be able, so the crowd can influence that part. If they're disciplined and they get through it, credit where credit's due, okay? But the crowd can influence that part. That's really important. Can you get them to move, maybe do something they don't want to do? Something.
Yeah.
Okay? Because of the environment inside the stadium. It's part of playing a home game in the college football playoff. All right? So those are all those elements that you look at in a game like this that can play a role in it. You've got a veteran quarterback making his 27th start in Drew Aller. Okay? He knows what he's doing and why he's doing it out there. It doesn't mean every throw is going to be perfect. I mean, let's throw to Dinkins on the interception to the 1-yard line. He threw it behind him.
Bad throw.
Okay? It's going to happen. But for the most part, this guy has made good decisions. And by the way, do not in any way, shape, or form, don't make this mistake in watching the game. Well, Bo's not here anymore. I probably shouldn't run. Okay? You've got 65 plays on offense. You are holding nothing back.
And you know what? I'll say to that point, he got hurt against Wisconsin.
In the pocket.
But since that game, he has run more.
Of course he has.
He has run more. He has put his head down. He is instead of doing the slide like a lot of quarterbacks tend to do, he is diving forward. He is fighting through contact a lot of the time to get those extra yards. That is not something we saw last season and not something we saw before he got hurt, which is why it's been so impressive watching him is that he has turned it up a notch. And a lot of the time you get hurt, you are nervous to do certain things. I wouldn't put it against him if he slid. and he didn't run a lot. I wouldn't put it against him. But he has run. He has put his head down. He has put his shoulder into people. He is fighting for yards. He did a lot against Oregon. He's done a lot these past few weeks. He has put his head down and said, I'm going to get the first down if I need to. And if it's there, I'm going for it.
Yep.
And no Bo, I don't think Drew is going to change his mind. Grunk is a great backup. I think Drew is going to say, I'm still doing it as if I'm QB1. That's what's mattering here.
Well, no. Drew's going to play the game like he's in a playoff game, and I need to do whatever it takes to win the game. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. This is, okay, if I need, just pick a number, page 164 of the playbook, because there's a play that can win the game for me, and we haven't shown it this year, I'm not holding it back. Yeah. I mean, and that's what all of this is about. It's all about winning this game. This is, James and I talked about outside noise last night. Okay? And by the way, I'd like to point out, have you seen, okay, they're doing little hints here.
Yeah.
Here and there.
About their uniform?
About the uniform. Okay? They did put out the helmet.
Yes. What color is the helmet, Steve?
Oh, no, it's like it always is, white. Yeah. But they have the numbers on the helmet.
Whoa. That I did not see.
Okay. Now, I will freely admit I've known about this for about 10 days.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Okay. This is Penn State's official football account.
Up on there. Yeah.
So, okay.
The finger clicked off there, but yes, it is number 24 is all over the shop. Right. So it is. You scroll up. You clicked off. You clicked off of it.
There you go. Right there.
There you go. Number 24 on the helmet, on the side of it.
Okay. But that would be Tamia Robinson's helmet.
But the point is, the number is going to be on the side of the helmet.
So, okay, that's just the beginning. But, I've known about this for about 10 days
Interesting.
Now, what they're going to do with this. It's just a fun side. It has nothing to do with winning or losing. It's just a fun aside. Now let's get to the atmosphere of the game. What they can do.
Yes.
All right. So this is what I want everybody to understand. Yes, the college football playoff runs it, but I think there was a lot of thought that it would be a very sterile, Penn State can't do their own deal. No, it's actually not like that. Okay, so let's give you what the changes are.
Let's hear it.
When SMU enters, they will do a video on the board for a big entrance for them.
Yeah, the normal entrance that they'd have.
Right, fire, brimstone. They run through the Northwest Tunnel and come onto the field. All right? That's one. Number two, the SMU band will be there. They'll be allowed to play at certain moments during the game. They'll be allowed to play at halftime, but the halftime's the only time they're on the field. They'll be located in the upper deck on the north side. 1,500 tickets on the bottom, lower bowl, 2,000 up top. Those will be the SMU seats. After that, Penn State's entrance will include a video, the fire brimstone, run through the South Tunnel and onto the field. After that, it's all Penn State's game.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there will be no advertisements in the stadium. None. So all the ads that you've seen during the course of the year and all the things you'll hear Joe Putnam read for ads and so forth, no, that's not happening. Everything's with the college football playoff. Okay? So any ads that are up there are college football playoff ads, but that's it. Right? Penn State wants to do something on third down. It's third down and play whatever they play. Okay.
When you hear Joe and Rodney shouting things during the game, either it'll be college football or normal Penn State.
Right? I mean, they're not going to be restricted on what they can do as the home team of the game.
So you will be hearing Mo Bamba at multiple times.
You'll hear Mo Bamba on third down and the whole thing. You'll be allowed to hear it. SMU played it at their practice this week. I already know that.
We've had videos surfaced online.
Right, which is fine. I mean, but that's what they should be doing. And so it's going to be I think the biggest difference is going to be the no ads.
Yes.
Right? The ribbon boards will be used. They'll be they're going to be used for other things. And the college football playoff will have their own videos. They put up things like that, that's fine. It's their game, right? But everything else, the blue band will do its normal deal. They'll line up normally for the entrance when they're done. right? You know, they get to spell lions as they go across the field, snoil as they go back.
We do love a good snoil spotting.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, who's snoil?
Right. But outside of that, it's the same.
Right, it's the same. So there are very few differences compared to a Penn State home game, so expect your normal experience.
I would like to discuss...
That's my point. Yes. I want to at least point that out so people know.
I would like to discuss a difference, though, in Penn State's last two opponents. So from Oregon to SMU. Another point for me, something I've been looking at, is the receiving core for SMU. They have had 3 total games where someone has gone over 100 yards receiving on the day.
Yep.
And it is not the same as Oregon, where you had Trayshawn Holden, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, who are all 3 elite receivers. Tez Johnson, 11 for 181. And then you've got great tight ends with Kenyon Sadiq, Terrence Ferguson, and incredible running backs who can catch out of the backfield in Whittington and James and run.
So I was talking with Wes Durham. In fact, I had breakfast with Wes this morning. And Wes and I go back. When we were doing the Big Ten announcers thing back in May, we always invite Wes as an honorary, right? And Wes and I were paired up 2 days in a row out there. Yeah. And he looked around. He says, I'm trying to think how far back I go with everybody. He says, I guess it's Jonesy, because Wes was at Marshall. I did Penn State Marshall. Then the next time I saw him, he was doing Vanderbilt. And the next time I saw him, he was doing Georgia Tech. Now he's doing the ACC Network, and he's doing the Atlanta Falcons. All right. So I was talking to him this morning, and R.J. Maryland is an outstanding tight end. I mean, really. I mean, and Wes was going to say, Steve, that guy could really, really play. He's out for the year. Right? That was a big loss for them.
Yeah.
So Hibbert's going to step in. The kid transferred from Michigan. He was the backup to Cortland Loveland last year at Michigan. He's a good player.
Yeah.
Okay. Loveland is, not Loveland. Hibbert's a good player. Yeah. He's a good player. Loveland's an outstanding player. Just didn't have a quarterback to get him the ball this year. But Hibbert's a good player. But Maryland was
the guy.
Really, really good. And Jennings loved throwing him the ball. The other receiver,
Roderick Daniels Jr., Keyshawn Smith, Jordan Hudson, Moochie Dixon.
No, those 4 are playing.
Jake Bailey.
Jake Bailey's out for the year. Bailey had been, if you notice Bailey's numbers, they're right up there with the top 5 receivers.
19 for 275.
Yeah, well, guess what? He's been out for several games now. He got that 19 in like 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
And so he was considered one of their top receivers. Daniels is exceptional. He can play for anybody.
He's 38 catches, just about 600 yards.
Right. I mean, he can play for anybody. He's really good. And remember, Smith is a converted wide receiver playing tailback. So in the passing game, the guy runs legitimate routes. Right? This is he's not like Zeke Elliott. I'm circling out of the backfield. I'm a receiver. It's like, okay, I got you.
He runs them like Nick Singleton does, where it is a real route. He's actually
he runs a legitimate route. And it's because that's what he did for 3 years. Right? But he runs between the tackle. He's really good in that regard. So that's when you look at what they can do. Daniels can play for anybody, and there are points where they'll run jet sweep action with Daniels. Right? They'll do that. I'll be frank with you. It got to a point. I stopped watching SMU tape.
Yeah.
I looked around and go, I've seen enough. Right? In other words, you can do I didn't want to put myself on overload with the game. I'm done.
But your point stands. Roderick Daniels is the 4th highest carrier on the team. He's got 43 carries, 163 yards. Another receiver, Derek McFall, has 24 carries for 106 yards. That's a lot of receiver carries.
McFall's not going to.
He's not playing. But the point is, they will have receivers run the ball on jet sweeps.
Well, they'll also line them up in the backfield. Right, because early in the season, most of those carries for Daniels were early in the season. Okay? Yeah. Because after Smith, there was, with all due respect, a drop-off at tailback. That's where they're not deep, and they're really not deep at tight end either. The big difference between Oregon and SMU is up front and the 2 tackles. The 2 tackles for SMU are good. So let's not say they're not good. They're good. But they aren't Oregon good.
Connerly and
Cornelius. Okay? are second-team All-Americans for a reason.
They're going to play on Sundays.
But that's right. But that's where this is going to be one of the great unknowns. And my curiosity is going to be, how does this SEC crew haul Abdul Carter? Carter has been grabbed, clutched, right? Has said nothing all season about it. Zero. Right? And never got a call. My question is going to be, will he get a couple of calls in this game?
Yeah. I can recall off the top of my head at least 6 times against Oregon where I was like, he beat one of the tackles, and I was like, that's a hold. Like, you could see him holding Carter back. I was like, that should be a hold, and it wasn't called. And we've seen it a lot this season because he is fast. Abdul Carter beats everyone around the edge, and it's pretty much game over at that point unless you hold him. Right. And that's what we've seen a lot of. He hasn't gotten a lot of those calls, so as you said...
A lot. Which one? He hadn't gotten any.
I can't recall the last time. I deny he's gotten more than him.
I think he got one against West Virginia. Yeah. They called Milan for holding on him.
It was like early in the season. And
that's the first game.
Yeah. And so one's got to wonder, how will that look? But along with that is, like, he has been playing so well down the stretch. He has just, as the season has gone on, he has been the bolder in Indiana Jones, got faster and faster and faster, running downhill. And now he's coming into this game with as much momentum as he can. And as you said, he's facing a different tier of talent. It is not the same tier as the two guys you mentioned.
He's really, they're good.
Yeah,
Please,
they're good.
Don't tell me, okay, I'm not trying to, I'm not saying like, they're mediocre. No, they're good players.
Yes.
Booker is a better player now in the middle.
Yes.
On the other side than he was at Maryland. Okay, so you're flipping it over to defense.
Yeah.
Roberts and Harvey are really good defensive ends. I mean, Shelton and Rucci are going to have good games.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, against Oregon, I said those are the two players. I said they've got to have their best games, or Shelton and Rucci, because we have to do this segment of who needs to get hot for Penn State, and I picked those two guys.
Yeah.
Well, they played great against Oregon. Not well. They played great. Yeah. You know, I mean, running game. Penn State had 515 yards in the game in offense. I mean, come on.
But where I'm going with this is Abdul Carter is someone who, in that game against Oregon, was going to be a dogfight. I will favor Abdul Carter in this one against them. But along that note, for me, and where I was going with the receiver point, is the defensive back room. The DBs, the safeties, Zaki Wheatley, AJ Harris, all of them. Every single guy on the back end.
Right.
It is going to be a different game for them because, respectfully, no one is as fast as Tez Johnson is. No one is as great a receiver as Trayshawn Holden or even Evan Stewart, who didn't have a catch, by the way.
Stewart and Holden combined for one catch in the game. They did a great job on them.
The problem was Tez Johnson could fly.
Right. And they did a good job of, again, Oregon got away with a couple things. All right. And look, Oregon did a great job. They're Big Ten champions for a reason. Okay, so I'm not taking anything away, but they had linemen downfield. They had. It was interesting to see the number of times Carter was probably held in the game, but like on the broadcast, you don't really get into that too much. I mean, it's like you don't want to be whining about it, right? Let's just see how the SEC calls this. I mean, it's their crew. I don't really know much about these guys. You know, I mean, the last SEC crew that came in here had a little trouble with downs, but that's okay. I'm sure it wasn't the elite group.
Yeah. This will be regardless, is a very exciting matchup. And I know you're saving a lot of things for tomorrow as well, because you have your pregame show.
I talked about most things. There's a few things maybe I'll wait till tomorrow, but that's
a few things for tomorrow.
Not much. I really kind of talked about everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's in 2 weeks of like no offense.
Yeah.
To everybody and to you, because I love working with you. You're incredible. Because you are.
Thank you.
But
only so much you can talk about.
I'm sick of talking about it.
So
and the reason it is it's I can understand with the Super Bowl. You got 2 weeks. Okay.
So let's get into the game of talking about other games. We only have a few minutes left here.
Yep, Indiana, Notre Dame tonight.
Give me your prediction.
All the Heisman Trophy winners in the history of Notre Dame football will not play. It's not going to be Terry Hanratty, Joe Theismann, or anybody else at quarterback. It's going to be Riley Leonard. Notre Dame's defense has played, for the most part, really well. When they finally did beat USC played really well against them, but the problem happened to be the two 90-plus yard interception returns for touchdowns.
99 and 100, I think, were the two.
So in other words, what does that tell you? It tells you USC was driving, right? I mean, and so there's two ways of looking at it. A pick six, or okay, but they were moving the ball. Indiana's problem has been up front, and it was exposed by Michigan. It was exposed by Ohio State. Rourke has had less time to throw the ball. Notre Dame's pressure up front is going to be important in a game like this. And I also think Notre Dame's ability to run the ball will be important. I think Notre Dame will win the game by, I'd say, a touchdown to 10 points. In the end,
well, you're spot on right now with where the line is. It's 8.5. Currently, Notre Dame is favored, so you're on the money there.
I wouldn't know.
Well, that game is going on again tonight, 8 p.m. ABC, ESPN. The next game after Penn State's tomorrow on TNT Max as well is Clemson, Texas.
Isaiah Bond will not play in the game for Texas. He's out because of a high ankle sprain. I felt in the SEC championship game, his inconsistency at wide receiver cost Texas that. It was one of the factors that cost Texas the game. Clemson does not have a running game right now because of the injuries. Haynes is out. Okay, the other, I can't remember. Mappa, who's been their starter anyway, is a really good back, but he's a really good back at 75% right now. He doesn't have the same push, the same juice. It's going to be all on Klubnik to play. I think Texas wins the game by maybe 2 touchdowns to 17 points.
They're currently favored by 10.5, so in the same realm. And then the last game, in terms of what we have not yet discussed, there's one more point I'll have afterwards. Of course, in the shoe, Ohio State, Tennessee. Ohio State is favored by 7 right now.
Okay, there's been a lot of talk about the secondary market here at Penn State. Oh, the tickets are this way. All these ancillary things, which, no offense, just show up. Okay. All right. Be loud, be proud. You can make a big difference in the game. Okay. But at Ohio State, there's been a gigantic problem here. We're on the verge of Nebraska, Notre Dame all over again. Where when Nebraska played at Notre Dame years ago, Nebraska invaded the stadium and they bought all the tickets up from Notre Dame fans who sold them. And all of a sudden, Notre Dame's looking around like they're playing a road game at home. 42% of the Ticketmaster market, or like StubHub, whatever, it's Tennessee fans have been buying tickets in that stadium. Now, I think Ohio State will win, and I think they're going to win by maybe by 5 to 7 points, touchdown, right? Because Tennessee has an excellent defense, but so does Ohio State. Tennessee has a legitimately great college running back.
Sampson is incredible.
Dylan Sampson is legitimately an outstanding college running back to go with that offensive line. But their passing game that got off to such a great start that everybody was praising until they went to Texas A&M. And then they were like, I was watching the game like, what's the deal with their passing game? And they haven't been the same since.
It's Nico Yamaleava.
Okay.
Will he be good?
Right. It hasn't been right. Ohio State in the game is going to need, Will Howard's going to have to play well. They're going to need Judkins and Henderson to play well. But see, they've got those 3 receivers. And that's where they made the big mistake against Michigan. Michigan was better than Ohio State in the trenches with Grant and Graham. Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, 2 superior college defensive tackles that both have a chance to have long NFL careers if they stay healthy, against what is a revamped offensive line for Ohio State,
because of injury,
where now you have 40% of your starters out and moving parts. Well, they kept trying to run the ball in the game. Why? Hey, you got those 3, and Johnson didn't play the game.
No corner.
You've got those 3 absolute wide receiving studs out there. Tate, Egbuka, Smith, right? Get the ball to them. And that's where Will Howard comes into play, and also Will Howard's ability to run the ball.
Mm-hmm. When he needs to, he can run it.
Right? Is big. And I think that's important. Plus, Howard's played in a game like this before. Yeah. He's played and won the Big 12 championship when he was at Kansas State. So I think Ohio State will win the game. Right? A lot of people are picking Tennessee, which I completely understand. But the interesting part is their stadium's going to get overrun.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of orange in there. And the last point to bring up as we wrap up here, I know it's not for another 11, 12 days. It is expected Georgia will be without Carson Beck for the quarterfinals.
But everybody
against Indiana
expected
or
that.
Notre Dame.
Everybody expected that.
So it is going to be the Gunnar Stockton-led Georgia Bulldogs against the winner from the Indiana rivalry game. That's going to go on.
Well, I'll say this about Stockton. Okay? Did a great job in the SEC championship game. But now here's a difference. Okay? It's one thing for him to step in and play as well as he did against Texas, because Texas spent the entire time getting ready for how Carson Beck plays. And when they played the first time, only Carson Beck played that game at Austin. Whomever plays Georgia next is going to have Gunnar Stockton tape to go over so they can be prepared for what he does and what he doesn't do. And that is actually the difference here. Instead of like, oh, geez, he does that. Because there's things that he does are different than Beck.
Yeah.
Right? Well, now I've had time to look at the differences, and that makes a big difference.
So it's going to be a big game tomorrow, a lot going on. If you want to catch anything on social media, you can at Sports7MM on Twitter, 7 Mountain Sports on Facebook. And if you want to listen to Steve Jones, the man across from me, on the call tomorrow, if you're here live in Happy Valley and want to listen, Bigfoot Country Legends 103.7 104.3 will be live in the stadium. And if you're at home hanging out and want to listen, you also can on 99.5 107.5 The Bus.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports